Hello, and welcome to Listening to the Verde, a series brought to you by Friends of the Verde River. I'm Nancy Steele, Executive Director of Friends of the Verde River. This program is designed to inspire and engage and inform you about everything that makes the Verde healthy: flowing rivers, abundant wildlife, and vibrant communities. And speaking of communities, I'm here today with two of our community leaders: Tribal Chairman of the Yavapai Apache Nation, John Huey, and Cottonwood Mayor Tim Elinski. Welcome to both of you. Because we're talking about community today, I'm going to be asking them to talk about what makes the Verde special, not only to them personally, but also to their communities. So let's start with Chairman John. Can you talk to us a little bit about your background? I know that you were born in Cottonwood and raised in the Verde Valley. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Nancy, for having me here today, and it's an honor to sit here with the mayor of Cottonwood as well, so thank you. Yeah, I was born in Cottonwood, right here at Verde Valley Hospital, and lived in the Verde Valley my whole life, born, raised in Camp Verde, and there's not probably any summers that I don't remember spending time on the Verde River, either fishing or, you know, on a rope swing, and just having a great time growing up. And you don't think about the seriousness of some of the things that affect the river these days with droughts and as low as the water is getting, because you want to just have a good time when you're younger. But I have lots of great memories being on the Verde River, growing up in the Verde Valley. So it's really been a blessing to live in the Verde Valley, to have such a natural resource available, not just for me, but for my family and also for the tribal community that I serve. So it's good.
Can you tell us one of those special memories?
Oh, geez, I've lived in living in Camp Verde. I've lived in Fort River Caves and Fort Lincoln, and both those areas were right on the river. Very green, very luscious. The fishing was absolutely wonderful. I've actually been able to catch some great catfish out of the Verde River back when there was a lot of river access. Today it seems a lot more reduced with residential and commercial building along the rivers. But back then there was a lot of great areas, and the river was a lot higher than it is now, and the fishing was just absolutely wonderful. Probably going down there with my dad. I remember taking a couple fishing trips and learning how to fish with him. And you know, every child should have a memory, spend time with their dad going fishing, and we had a great time. He's long past now, and I remember those memories fondly. Wonderful.
Mayor Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you spent a lot of time on the East Verde as a child.
That's right. Yeah. So I didn't grow up here in the Verde Valley, but up north of Payson. So I was on the East Fork of the Verde. But it was a big part of my childhood. I spent most summer days down along the East Verde, a lot of hiking, and we were talking before the show about inner tubing. We certainly did a lot of inner tubing down the Verde. And yeah, me and my siblings, or just me alone, would go down and just recreate and enjoy the East Verde and all it had to offer. And it was kind of a year-round thing, really, because you know, summer, of course, was great just to cool off, but winter, in those days, the river would freeze over too, so it was great for ice skating and that sort of thing. And all other times, you know, after a big flood, it was always fun to go down and scavenger hunt and see what sort of weird flotsam and jetsam had floated up to the shore. But it was great. It definitely sparked my imagination. The river really truly was a companion to me in my youth, and I have very fond memories.
And you left the Verde for a while, right? And then you came back?
Yeah, so I spent my childhood there, and then in high school we went up to Oregon. So I spent some time up in the soggy Northwest, which made me appreciate my home state so much more. And I spent some time overseas as well, Eastern Europe, lived over in Eastern Europe for some time, and then came back and eventually wound my way back here to the Verde Valley. I've had family here for a while. In fact, I do have memories also as a kid of being on the Verde. I had an aunt that lived not too far from the Verde here in Cottonwood. So yeah, it would definitely have a lot of family connections here and ties to the area, and there's simply no better place to live.
Yeah.
I think we all know that.
Yeah. So it brought you back here. And both of you are elected officials. How did that come about? I mean, talk a little bit. Chairman Huey, why did you decide to run for office?
That's a great question. I actually have served on the tribal council for the Yavapai Apache Nation on 2 other terms, from 2006 to 2012, and then continued with law enforcement. And You know, there were some unique opportunities I thought was coming up with the tribe that I really wanted to be involved in. Some of it economic development or water settlements or some of the bigger plans that ultimately would benefit the tribe, and I wanted to have a voice in that. So I thought, what a great time to run. In September of last year, we had an election. I actually won the seat as chairman, and it really is an honor and a privilege to get to serve the Yavapai Apache Nation. There's so many good things that the tribe is in the process of doing. COVID-19 slowed a few things, but ultimately we still got some huge goals and some things that we want to do. And you know, being involved and having a voice in your community is really important. It's easy to sit back and judge and criticize, but to have a voice and to be active in your community, it speaks a lot about, you know, who you are and what you're trying to do. And you know, those are the things that, you know, myself and the other council members that sit on the tribal council, you know, want to be involved in. We want to have a voice. We want to share ideas and just, you know, make the Yavapai Apache Nation just a great place to live for our community and a safe and just really prosper. So it's been really fun.
That's great. That's great to hear. Tim, what was your path to elected office?
Yeah, interestingly, so I was living at the house that my aunt lived in Cottonwood. I had moved into that home, the one close to the Verde, and in my neighborhood there was something coming up on the Planning and Zoning Commission's agenda to put in a higher density project in our resident or our agricultural neighborhood. So I was one of those that was critical and pointing fingers and saying, how can you do this? And I realized I didn't want to be that one who just tells you what the problem is without offering any solutions. And so I thought, instead of just being here as a rabble rouser, maybe I should throw my hat in. And so I did. And there was an opening on planning and zoning, and I applied and was appointed by council, which shocked me. This was 15 plus years ago. And so I served there for a year, and then again an opening on council, and served on council ever since, really, and was, you know, elected mayor. And now I'm in my second term as mayor. And so I kind of had an unusual entrance into politics, maybe. I don't consider myself a political person necessarily, but when you love your community as you do, you understand that you have to serve, and that's really what it's all about. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, I thank both of you for stepping up and serving. That's a lot of work, and I'm sure it's often thankless. I'm sure you're often
its moments
subject of
once in a while.
Yeah.
So let me shift gears a little bit. And I want to talk about the Verde Watershed Report Card in or at least its findings. In 2020, we published the Verde Watershed Report Card, and it gave the watershed as a whole, not just the river, but the watershed as a whole, which stretches, you know, from Payson to Prescott, and from Mount Humphreys all the way down to where the river merges with the Salt in the Phoenix area. And we looked at 3 different areas. We looked at habitat, water flows, and community. And actually, although the watershed as a whole received a C+, our communities, interestingly enough, were pretty healthy, at least by the measures we looked at. We looked at recreation, we looked at engagement, civic engagement, and also digital engagement. And then we looked at community vitality. And the lowest scoring area of the entire watershed report card was affordability. So we have an issue in this region that was identified as people spending too much of their income on their housing. So when we think about housing, you know, kind of what does that have to do with the river? But we felt, and not just us, we had a whole bunch of people that we asked, what do you think is important to know about? And it's really about how do we ensure this is a good place to live while protecting our rivers and our natural habitat. So I'm going to kind of throw that question back to the both of you. What do you think about how we can ensure this is a good place to live while protecting our wildlife and our rivers? Either one of you can take it first.
I'll start off.
Okay.
You know, first of all, the report card is very good information. I really hope that the residents of the Verde Valley, you know, read those reports and get to understand what all it entails, because there's a lot of great information there that really informs people in regards to residential. If you're going to build here, it's a lot more than just building a home. You're going to use water, you're going to use space, you're going to use land. And because the Verde Valley is such a great place to live, I mean, why would you not want to build and grow here? But that, you know, also hurts our natural resources in lots of different ways. In this case, the Verde River. You know, growing up here and in the 80s, like I said, the river was a lot more abundant and higher than it is now. And as I kayak up and down on as one of my hobbies, you know, you can see where a lot of people have, you know, tapped into the Verde River and they're pumping and to provide water for their communities or their residential or for their agriculture. You know, that pays a toll on the river, which is a natural resource, and we just need to be observant of that. So those report cards or any reports that come out about our area, I really hope people read those and take into consideration before they just, you know, start building and think about the big picture.
Okay. We have a little time before our break, Tim, for you to respond to that question.
Okay. Well, development's, of course, you know, a hot topic and has been for years in the Verde Valley. I think Cottonwood is well prepared to manage its growth. We have, I think, better control than other areas of our natural resources. Our, you know, we have our municipal water company, as well as our sewer facilities. So we have the ability to recapture about, I think, close to 70% of the water that we deliver, which is a great plus because then we can direct inject that back into the aquifer. And so as we grow, we're making sure that we do so smartly. But I think the biggest thing we can do as a municipality is to really try to attract the right type of growth to Cottonwood. Certainly it's market-driven, you know, growth is market-driven, we understand that, but in building relationships with friends and with the development community, we can try to you know, message our community as one that attracts folks that are water-wise and, you know, kind to the environment. So when we do build developments, we are attracting those types of people who want to continue the great work and the legacy work that Friends have done and the city has done and all of our regional partners to make sure that, again, we just have as little impact as possible on our wonderful Verde Valley.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for a break. So we'll be right back after this short break to talk about how the Verde River contributes to our vibrant communities. Welcome back to Listening to the Verde. My name is Nancy Steele, and I'm here with Chairman John Huey and Mayor Tim Elinski, talking about living in this rare and beautiful place that has a river running through it. Well, thank you two again for joining me. And I want to kick this part of the program off with talking about what have you learned from the Verde and why is it important to your community, to our community? So, Chairman John, you want to talk a little bit about what you've learned from the Verde and how it's important to us?
Yeah, I'd love to. Culturally, for the Yavapai Apache Nation, a lot of our cultures and our religion is based along, you know, with the Verde River, and that's important to our people in our community because there's some resources that the river provides that are used in our ceremonies. You know, the cattail along the Verde River, you know, is used in our events, and so it's a resource that provides for my community, for the Yavapai Apache Nation, a lot of cultural meaning. And that's really important to us because that is the way that the Yavapai and the Apaches have lived in this area since the beginning of time. And we don't want to waste the resource. We want to make sure it's there for a long time to come for our community because the Yavapai Apache Nation is always growing. We want to ensure that it's there for a long time. So culturally, there's a lot of ties that the Yavapai and the Apache have with the water and with the Verde River specifically.
Yeah. What concerns you about the future of the Verde River and your community?
So the loss of the river that would bring things, like I said, the cattails, having those go away, those would eliminate some of our past and our present practices. And that's just detrimental to our culture. And, we need to make sure that those stay growing for our youth so they know who they are and where their ancestors and family came from. And ultimately, we want to see the Verde survive, not just for the Yavapai Apache Nation, but for the whole, Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Sedona, Clarkdale, Jerome. We all live in this area, and it's really important that we preserve it.
What steps are you taking? How's that coming to action for you?
So as taking chairman, we've been carrying along, and long before me, with previous chairs in my place, we've been, have discussions of our water settlement and projects that we can re-enter water back into the Verde River safely. With our water settlement, we've got some great attorneys that we've hired that have really made a lot of great progress for us to try to reach settlements. And, we're trying to phase through those now, and we're hoping this year would be a great year to kind of move a lot of progress with our settlement and come to agreements with all the local municipalities and people that have rights to the Verde River. The Yavapai Apache Nation is probably the oldest, land bearer to the Verde Valley since the beginning of time, and our legal battle with our settlement it's ongoing, but we hope we can endure and reach a good settlement for the tribe.
If somebody doesn't know what the settlement is, can you explain that?
Sure. The settlement that we're trying to reach for the Yavapai Apache Nation is insurement of water. The Verde River, for people that don't know, it provides water not just for the Verde River, but for the metropolitan area down south of us as well. And everybody wants a right to the Verde River. We have residents, municipalities, agricultural, ditch owners that are all needing river. We all need it to survive because water is life. And our settlement that we're trying to reach is to ensure that my community, the Yavapai Apache Nation, has a right to that water for a long time to come.
Okay. I think that clears it up.
In 20 words or less, describe what
It's a lot more than that, but really, we want to ensure water for our community.
Yeah. Mayor, I'm sure that the Cottonwood, ensuring water for Cottonwood is also important to you. You talk a little bit about what concerns you and what you're trying to do to protect your resource.
Sure. Thanks for the question. Absolutely, I think what keeps us all up at night is imagining the Verde River running dry. I mean, that's something that it would be devastating for our community. Like I said, I grew up on the East Verde. You grew up on the Verde. I think there's a part of us that, not that we take it for granted, but we've always known that it's there. And one thing the Verde's taught me is that people are extremely passionate about the Verde, but there's kind of a tug-of-war too that takes place sometimes, and I sometimes fall in the camp where I love it so much I don't want anyone to know about it because I like my little secret holes where I can go swimming or fishing, and I don't want it to get trampled on. But on the other hand, that's not really good long term. I mean, I think one thing I've always said is that the more you love something, the harder you're going to work to protect it. So really, my goal as mayor is to make sure that first and foremost our community loves our river, and we understand its vitality through and through to our communities, and that all our visitors that come to the area too grow to love our river, and through that love, that connection, they'll do everything they can to protect it. So what are we doing here in Cottonwood to protect it? Again, we're pumping less groundwater since we purchased the private water company some 20 years ago, pumping a lot less groundwater. We are strengthening our relationship with friends and our regional partners to make sure that we brand our community appropriately, that people know that you need to respect and preserve the river.
A river-friendly community.
River-friendly community, that's correct. And I really appreciate, again, the friends stepping up and helping us with some of the developers that are coming forward and wanting to do some larger projects to make sure that we do those in an appropriate and responsible way. Whether by adjudication or settlement, I think we all want to have some security in knowing how much water our communities have. And I work well with your predecessor, Chairwoman Winnicky.
Yes.
I know I'll work well with you as well. It's critical to our communities that we know what we have. And but at the end of the day, it's water in the river that matters the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
What would you say the river has taught you?
What has it taught me? That's a tough question. I think, you know, it's taught me, in a strange way, it's taught me patience, I think. You know, this adjudication's been going on, I think, since before I was born. It's a long time.
A long time.
And yet the river continues to flow, and I think, you know, we have to remain patient and vigilant with our partners, and making sure that we keep our focus, I think, is the main thing. But it's challenging, for sure. Everybody wants to save the Verde. The path forward is not as clear as you might think. And I think that's the problem. So it does take patience, building partnerships, respect, education, all those things.
Yeah, yeah. Chairman, what would you say the river has taught you?
Like Mayor Elinski said, respect. You know, learning about these resources, and you just think that they're going to be there forever, when realistically, you know, we're growing, you know, worldwide, and there's more people, there's more resources that are going to be used, and you don't think about that when you're younger, growing up and swimming or tubing or fishing, but you know, as you get older and you understand everything it takes to live life, and you have to really respect those things, whether it be the land or the water. And you know, for the tribe, you know, specifically, like I said, they've got rituals that have gone back, you know, thousands of years. So the option of losing these valuable resources, it's really tough, and you really have to respect them. So when you use them wisely, you know, respect them, and hopefully they stay here for a long time to come.
Yeah, yeah. We talk a lot about sustainability. We talk a lot about resilience. I think in my case, I want sustainability for the river. I want it to be a sustainable river with flows, and that's the same for our communities. And I think a lot about how the river is necessary to our community's health here. And I assume that you all also feel that way.
Right.
What do you say to someone who says, the river's going to dry up anyway, I don't care?
I can't say it on camera.
Which one of you wants to? What do you say to those people?
They would probably be happier living somewhere else.
Oh, there we go.
You know, I understand that someday, that could be true, but we still have responsibilities as human beings to preserve them, and not just waste them. So, you know, it's doable. It's doable. And there's a lot of parties at the table, and, you know, it's a joint effort by all means. And we have to have very serious, you know, sometimes tough discussions to talk about all of our needs for our communities, but those meetings have to happen. And ultimately, it's, as the Verde Valley, it's the heart of our Verde Valley, and we want to preserve it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not a hypothetical. In my first couple of months here with Friends of the Verde River, I actually had somebody say that to me. It's going to dry up anyway. Yeah.
It's a pessimistic attitude that it doesn't move us forward. I run into a lot of folks too that would like to bury their heads in the sand, or just, you know, believe that it's fated to dry up. But I disagree. I think there's a lot that we can and should do. Yeah.
I'm glad you're both very hopeful. All right. So, what's your favorite animal in the Verde?
Boy, in the Verde, I mean, we've got so many that come to our area in the Verde. You know, you got the elk that are up a little bit higher, and you got deer. Oh, geez. The fish have been great. We do have a lot of beavers now.
I'm sensing a food theme, actually, here. Elk, deer, fish.
I'm an avid hunter, so,
yeah,
you know, there's a lot of resources, and it's hard to pick just one, but there is quite a few. We're pretty lucky, actually, to have this type of wildlife in our area.
We are. We are.
You brought in the otter earlier before the show, and it's funny because I do love to see an otter in the Verde. I remember as a kid I would see beaver from time to time, but I'd never had seen very many otters until here in the Verde.
Yeah. We were hiking in Sycamore Canyon one time, actually not too long ago, and I saw 2 otters in the pool right as we came down around that first place where you see the water.
Yeah.
And there were 2 otters playing there.
Yeah.
It's so special. So river otter's your favorite?
That's my top pick.
You're gonna go with the okay.
They're elusive. They're hard to find. So when you see one, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
I would have to say probably the fish, bass in our Verde River has been great. You know,
it's been great.
When me and my family go and enjoy the Verde River, you know, they've been able to catch some great fish, and just makes for great memories. And you know, we've never kept them. We've always thrown them back because we want them to thrive in the Verde and make it fun for everybody. So
okay. Yeah, fish are good. All right, any last thoughts you want to share with our viewers? We just have about a minute or so to go.
Mainly, just it's been great support from the Friends of the Verde. You know, I'm really looking forward the rest of my term working with the local municipalities, you know, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Sedona, Clarkdale, and the groups such as the Friends of the Verde River, who have the same priorities and same, you know, goals and things we want to do for the Verde River. So I just want to say thank you and allow me the opportunity to come here and speak on behalf of my tribe, the Yavapai Apache Nation. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Mayor?
Really appreciate the opportunity. It's been great to sit down with you. I'm glad I finally got to meet you not in a non-virtual sense. And I'm really looking forward to working with you more closely. One last thing I wanted to share is Mayor Von Gossick of Clarkdale. I've said this time or two before, but years ago I think his plan to save the Verde was to bring 1 kayaker at a time down the river. And I remember at the time, and this was years and years and years ago, thinking, well, that's just the dumbest idea I've ever heard. How are you going to make any progress by taking 1 person at a time down the river and showing them all the great things about it? But here we are decades later, and it's making a big difference in the Verde. And again, it just goes back to you know, helping people love the resource that we have. And when my both daughters were first born, as soon as I could yank them out of the hospital, we dragged them down to the Verde and dipped them in the water.
Nice.
And we do that frequently. We go there all the time. We don't live far from the Verde, so it's a quick walk from our house. And I'm just doing everything I can to instill in them a love also for the Verde. And it's very much that Doug Von Gossick philosophy. You know, if it's just 1 at a time, then if that's the best you can do, that's all you can do. But it does make a difference.
And children are our future.
Correct.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, thank you both. And thank you for watching this episode of Listening to the Verde with our special guests, Mayor Tim Elinski and Chairman John Huey. To learn more about the topics we covered here today and others, you can watch more episodes of Listening to the Verde. Please visit our website, verderiver.org/listening. Thank you very much.
Listening to the Verde is brought to you by Friends of the Verde River. Please visit verderiver.org/listening for more videos and resources.